Greetings nerdlings and welcome to AmalgamNation presents World of Loreccraft, Citycraft, Darnassus edition. Darnassus, also known as Darnassus City, is the capital city of the Night Elves of the Alliance. The High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind and the Archdruid Malfurion Stormrage reside in the Temple of the Moon, surrounded by Sisters of Elune and Draenei ambassadors. Atop the massive boughs of the second world tree, Teldrassil, lies the wondrous city of Darnassus. The elegant bridges, beautiful groves and leaf-covered pathways that dot the city's landscape are testaments to the Night Elves' reverence for nature. One of Darnassus's most notable structures is the stunning Temple of the Moon, the centre of worship for High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind and her Sisters of Elune. Darnassus is home to night elves of all vocations, and the city has recently opened its doors to human refugees from Gilneas as well. Many of these embattled humans have contracted a strange curse that transforms them into feral wolf beasts known as worgen. Although they're usually reclusive, the night elves have allowed these outsiders into Darnassus because they know the perils of the Gilneans' cursed state all too well. It was in fact a group of night elf druids that created Azeroth's first worgen millennia ago. Despite the arrival of these new residents, Darnassus remains a symbol of the night elves' rich culture and glorious history. Darnassus is the greatest city of the night elves, housing the leaders of both the druids and the faithful of Elune. It is carefully guarded by sentinels, ancient protectors, and ancients of war. The city is formidable in spite of the peaceful natures of the Night Elves. In addition to Night Elves, many guests and diplomats from elsewhere reside here, such as groups from the Explorers Guild and Knights of the Silver Hand, as well as a few representatives of the Horde negotiating peace treaties. There is only one High Elf allowed within its borders. The population here is almost entirely elven, and most of the Night Elves are tolerant of others. However, there is political strife between the druids and priests. The atmosphere inside the city is quiet and somewhat a melancholic one. It does not have the feeling of confinement that one would feel in Stormwind or Ironforge, where the buildings are grouped close together. Darnassus is open to the sky, and the graceful bridges spanning the lake around which it is built set the buildings wide apart. The prime reason why the city's population is so low is that it is isolated. Teldrassil is a small island away from the main mass of Azeroth, and the only way to gain access from another continent is to fly or sail to Rutheron village, a small settlement at the base of Teldrassil, and from there step into the glowing portal to the city proper. This is a good thing, though. It is the elves' capital and should therefore be serene and quiet, holding the mystic and melancholic elements of the Night Elves. History of Darnassus. In the aftermath of the Third War, the Night Elves had to adjust to their mortal existence. Such an adjustment was far from easy, and there were many Night Elves who could not adjust to the prospects of aging, disease, and frailty. Seeking to regain their immortality, a number of wayward druids conspired to plant a special tree that would re-establish a link between their spirits and the eternal world. With Malfurion Stormrage missing, Fandral Staghelm, the leader of those who wished to plant the new world tree, became the new Archdruid. In no time at all, he and his fellow druids had forged ahead and planted the great tree, Teldrassil, off the stormy coast of northern Kalimdor. Under their care, the tree sprouted up above the clouds. Among the twilight boughs of the colossal tree, the wondrous city of Darnassus took root. However, the tree was not consecrated with nature's blessing, and soon fell prey to the corruption of the Burning Legion. Now the wildlife and even the limbs of Teldrassil are tainted by a growing darkness. Defences of Darnassus. The defences are spread out due to the water that surrounds a town. A Death Knight with a Path of Frost can easily get a whole raid in the water and to the temple, passing all guards. However, Darnassus does boast the traditional sentinel guards in most locations, and some elite hunters prowl the city on impressive cat-like mounts. However, the city is almost completely abandoned by high-level players who typically congregated in places like Dalaran during Wrath of the Lich King, and now mostly Stormwind City since the Cataclysm. Normally, players don't heed the warnings of an advance. Unless you're on an RP server, most really don't care about what happens to Darnassus. Though some people do like this city and manage to defend it, the Horde can easily raid it with enough players, even during peak hours. There is a second route into Darnassus for sufficiently devious Horde players. By using an elixir of water walking, a Horde player with a fast land mount can cross from Darkshore to the outskirts of the Great Island Tree where Darnassus is located. By running up the tree, then jumping off onto one of the lower routes, the toon will die and be brought to the graveyard inside the tree. By accepting local resurrection and waiting out the resurrection sickness, the Horde toon can gain access to the island and all its territories without encountering any guards at all. Notes about Darnassus. Darnassus is second to the Exodar in being the least visited city of the Alliance. This is likely due to the lack of ease to travel to Darnassus. You will rarely find players hanging out at Darnassus, as you would find players hanging out at Ironforge or Stormwind. Since the Cataclysm release, there is slightly more traffic due to proximity to Mount Hyjal, but with portals directly from Stormwind City to Nordrassil Inn, it makes little difference. When Horde players attack Darnassus, Alliance players rarely will try to defend Tyrande Whisperwind because of the hassle it is to travel to Darnassus. Prior to the Cataclysm, there were no trainers associated with mining, engineering, or blacksmith in Darnassus. Thank you for watching, and as always remember, play to game and game to play.